Thanks for joining. I'm Chris, for those of you who have no idea who I am. I'm in the client success team here at GoProposal. So my job every day is just making sure people know what GoProposal is, what OverSuite is, what GoProposal AML is, making sure that everyone is on the same page with everything that we can help them out with. And obviously making sure that everyone gets the most out of the system as well moving forward. So everyone has different goals when they sign up to start using GoProposal, and it's my job and the team's job to make sure that we get you there. So yeah, thanks for joining us this morning. This is the first time we're doing sort of a big demo covering all aspects of GoProposal. Obviously, we launched GoProposal AML only a couple of weeks ago, 2 or 3 weeks ago. So this is our first real demo encompassing the original GoProposal product, OverSuite, and GoProposal AML. So that is everything across pricing and proposals, letters of engagement, and then also KYC and risk assessments as well. So GoProposal, obviously the original product from 5-6 years ago, which is all about, and I'll go through these in a little bit more detail in a second, just to make sure we are all on the same page and we all know what these different products are, and what each of them handles. But GoProposal is very much the pricing and proposal side of things, so ensuring that you're pricing consistently and consistently profitably, and able to manage scope creep with your clients over time as well. We've got OverSuite, which is the smart letter of engagement tool we launched a couple of years ago, and that was our real sort of first step into the world of compliance. And it's all about minimizing risk and making sure that you're working to the highest levels of compliance and having a fully robust suite of letters of engagement. And then, like I said, a couple of weeks ago, we launched the first phase of our GoProposal AML product, which handles the KYC and risk assessments. And in the same way as we did with the letters of engagement and OverSuite, we tried to make those sort of the smart KYC and smart risk assessments that aren't just a checkbox exercise. They're sort of actively helping you go through that process and make it as easy as possible. But before I jump into the actual demo of GoProposal itself, and obviously OverSuite and AML and the whole suite of products, why do people use GoProposal? What is GoProposal, and what are we looking to achieve here? So, like I said, the first thing, and this has sort of always been our bread and butter, I suppose, with GoProposal, and that is pricing consistently. And there's a couple of different angles to that, and I think a lot of people, when they first hear about GoProposal, they just think of it from the perspective of new clients. They think, oh, brilliant, whenever I'm engaging a new client, I can make sure that I'm charging the correct amount and I'm profitable with every new client that walks through the door. And that is very much the case. We want to make sure that whenever we're engaging a new client, we're pricing them in a consistent, fair, and a profitable way. But also over time, we want to be able to manage the fee that we're charging each of our clients, to ensure that as the scope of the work that we're doing increases, we're increasing the fees alongside that, and that we're profitable and always charging for the work that we're doing with all of our clients. We've also got the face-to-face aspect, or the live client conversations that you can have using GoProposal to sell services more confidently and improve those client conversations as well. So using GoProposal over Zoom or over Teams, like we are now, or literally sat in a boardroom or in a meeting room with a client, running through GoProposal with them there and then, and being able to really sort of communicate the value of the services that you're offering, show them exactly where their fee is coming from and why their fee is what it is and the variables that make that up, and also handle objections around price in, I think, a much better and much more logical way as well. And obviously, when we jump into GoProposal in a second, we'll see that in a bit more context. And then finally, we've got minimizing risk, and this is really where OverSuite and the AML components come into play. But whether it is sort of something as simple as having your first real sort of proper robust letters of engagement in place via OverSuite, whether it's communicating key dates to clients around certain deadlines that you need information from them, getting multiple signatures from the directors of a company to make sure that everyone is authorizing the engagement that needs to, or completing those initial KYC and risk assessments, or those ongoing assessments to make sure that we're minimizing the risk throughout, again, the life cycle of our relationship with the client. And again, before jumping into the actual system itself, there's something that we always like to talk about at GoProposal, and it really sort of ties back to the real core issue and the core problem that we see with a lot of firms that fundamentally GoProposal looks to help solve. And a lot of the firms that we speak to, a lot of the people that we speak to when they sort of first come to GoProposal and we first speak to them, they all have similar issues that we call surface problems. They're things that pop up like, undercharging clients, over-servicing clients, just not being valued by your clients. Your client might not even know half the stuff that you're doing for them. It might be having, if you're running a practice, it might be quite chaotic. You ultimately feel overwhelmed, but these are all common themes that we see very often, but we very much call them surface problems because you can't really solve them by tackling them individually, and they quite often compound each other. If you're undercharging, you try to offer more value and offer more services to make up for the lack of perceived value from your clients, but ultimately you end up doing more work for the same amount of money, and the problems just get worse and worse. We found that no matter which of these problems people seem to be facing, if we can solve the very core problem at the core of most accounting and bookkeeping businesses, we can remove all of these surface problems from the equation. And what that core problem is what we call the value exchange system. And that is the scope of the work that's being done and the price that is being charged for that work. So the fee that's being charged for that work. And what we find time and time again is that at the start of a client engagement, this is out of line. So you're undercharging from the start. You've got a set of fee services that you're offering. The fee is too low. You might not even have a defined list of services that you're providing to the client, but the scope of the work that you're doing is outweighing the price. And as that client relationship progresses, we find that it gets worse because the client's business might progress and get bigger, so there's more work to be done, but the fee stays the same. Maybe you start providing more services and throwing in other things, but again, the price stays the same. And over time, it just gets worse and worse. And if you don't have that defined list of services, or maybe you've not got the right AML or compliance procedures in place, you can also be exposing yourself to a lot of risk. So not only is the scope of the work out of line with the price, but the risk is far out of line with what we've got in place as well. And what GoProposal is going to help us to do, is to bring that back in line. But like I say, it could be due to having no defined list of services, so no actual clearly defined scope of work. You might not have that pricing system in place. A lot of people I know call it a finger in the air approach. When a client walks through the door, you know how much you should be charging for these services, so you roughly know what to charge them, but there's no system in place that helps you solve that. There's no delegated sales system, so there's bottlenecks within the business. And if you've got a team underneath you, they aren't empowered to have these conversations with clients, and so you become a bottleneck. And it's down to you to not only price up those initial clients, but review those fees over time. Which people, if you're trying to run an accountancy firm or a bookkeeping business, you've not got the time to do that. You might have outdated engagement letters. You might just have templates that you got from your professional body, however long ago, that again, you don't have the time, and ultimately, you didn't get into accounting or bookkeeping to deal with compliance and the legal side of things, and that isn't where your expertise lies. So ultimately, you don't have the time or the in-house expertise to handle that. There's a lack of confidence in processes as well. So again, whether it's engagement letters or the AML process, there's no real guidance for you, and there's a bit of a lack of confidence in that process. And ultimately, everything takes too long. Pulling together proposals, letters of engagement, carrying out these checks and assessments, it's time consuming, and no one likes pulling together their engagement letters or doing their risk assessments. But the idea with GoProposal, as I say, is to give us a system that can produce proposals and engagement letters instantly, make sure that we have a fully compliant and clearly defined list of services within our engagement letter, to reduce the risk and bring the scope and the price in line with each other from the start. So when we're engaging a new client, we're minimizing that risk. We're charging for all of the work that we're doing. And once we've got that in line, we can then start to grow that over time, not just with each client. So as the scope of the work increases, we can make sure we're increasing our fees, but with our overall client base as well. So at that point, we can comfortably start bringing in new clients. But at the end of the day, if we can do this with all the clients that we've already got, we're going to be much more profitable and making more money for basically the same amount of work, because we're doing the same amount of work. We're just making sure that we're charging for all of it. So that is very much with the sort of value exchange system and the scope of the work and the price. That is very much the pricing and proposals aspect that GoProposal will tackle and handle for us. Obviously, we've got OverSuite as well, which is the smart engagement letter system, which is going to provide us with that full library of engagement letters that is kept up to date over time. So just as a sort of top level summary of OverSuite before we jump into the system itself, it's been developed, like I said, about 2 years ago now, developed by experts with over 30 years of experience within compliance. And these are people who, have written engagement letters for the professional bodies as well. So it's not just something that we've thrown together. There's a ton of experience that's gone into this. They've got knowledge from the forefront of the world of compliance and risk, which is actively built into the product. So, it's actively working for your practice as well. It's not just a set of templates. It's continually evolving to meet the ever-changing regulations of the professional bodies, but then also things like GDPR, changes that have been made to terms and conditions because of Brexit and things like that. It's always evolving and updating for you. And you're going to get a full library of engagement letters and service schedules that are built instantly from just simple known inputs about your firm, the professional body that you're with. I was having a look yesterday, and I think most people, after they sort of initially kick off their OverSuite trial, they've completed the OverSuite wizard and got that set up within about 5 minutes. So it is literally really, 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 really quick. We've also got then the GoProposal AML side of things. So again, these have been built, the KYC and risk assessment has been built by the leading authorities on the subject. Their expert guidance is built in. So there's actual guidance in there, which we'll see for each of the questions and each of the steps of the process. It avoids that checkbox approach. So it's very much going to guide you through the relevant questions and take you through what you need for the different assessment or the different type of client that you're working with. It also broadens AML to embody the entire client relationship. It's not just about getting this done again when we onboard a client. It's going to track this for us over time. So when we need to renew that and carry out the assessment again, we can do so. And that might be because a client is a new director, a director's left, whatever it might be. Circumstances change, and we'll make sure that we can manage that over time really easily. And obviously, importantly, this is integrated with GoProposal and OverSuite as well. So it's making it really easy for us to go from the point of proposal and engaging that client through to the risk assessments really, really easily. And a point just to point out at this point, I think I said at the very start that this is sort of phase 1 of our AML product. Phase 2 will also incorporate the electronic checks and identity checks as well. So that is something that, again, is going to be brought in and integrated with GoProposal and OverSuite too. But that's enough of me sort of just waffling on with a with a slideshow. So let's jump into GoProposal itself and see how this actually all works in practice. So some of you guys might be familiar with GoProposal. Maybe you've seen it in action on its own. Maybe you've seen it in action with OverSuite. But I want to show you sort of how this all actually works and how it all actually integrates together. So I'm aware some people might literally have never seen GoProposal before either, so I'll make sure I give sort of a full run through of GoProposal as well. But the first thing to note here is that the system is very much branded up to be used in those sort of client-facing scenarios. So as we are now, you guys could be one of my clients, and I'm running through a proposal with you over Zoom. You could, pull this up, sit next to someone in a meeting room, up on the big screen in a boardroom, whatever it might be. But the idea is that you should be comfortable running through this with the client so that they can have both a proposal and an engagement letter produced by the end of that meeting. They've got everything they need to make a decision. We've agreed on a price or got an agreement on the fee itself. And I'll show as we go through how we can also use the system to tackle objections around price as well, as I said before, in a much better way. But the idea is that we're going to have both of those documents, the proposal and letter of engagement, produced instantly for us. So as we come through, we'll see the first thing here that we've got is the ability to select a contact or add a new contact to the system. So in this case, I've selected one already, but what this is going to allow us to do is track proposals against our contacts over time, and also make sure that we're kicking off those KYC and risk assessments for the relevant contacts in the system as well. So at this point, if it's an existing client, I can select that and pull it through. If it's a new client and this is the first time we're dealing with them, we can get them added to the system as well. We then get through to our templates for both the proposal and the letter of engagement. And this is why it's so easy to create both documents with GoProposal. So we'll see that with the templates for the proposal, as an example, you might have different teams within the firm, and each team wants a different proposal template for engaging a new client with their specific testimonials, a meet the team page, key information about what the client needs to know. So we can have those different templates built out in here, select the relevant option, and the proposal is going to just be created for us. And you can see in there that we've got, you might have new client templates, existing client templates, you might have, a self-assessment tax return template specific for those clients. But at this point, we just select the right option. The system will do the rest for us. And that is the same with the letter of engagement. And this is where we can sort of first see OverSuite. See, I've got a full library of letters of engagement built out here, and these are provided for me by OverSuite. So as I said before, they're managed and kept up to date. All the content here is managed for us. And we'll see. So in this case, I'm just going to do a limited company non-audit as an example. But we've even got things like, audit engagement letters where we can pull through the further relevant information. So again, dependent on the letter of engagement that we're using, the system is going to prompt us to provide any of that further information that we might need. We've then got our annual revenue range. So this is going to be the first thing that is going to start driving the price of certain services within GoProposal. So if I select the annual revenue range here, as an example for things like annual accounts, VAT returns, management accounts, you might want to price those based on the annual revenue of the firm that we're dealing with. So over time, as your client's company gets bigger and expands, they can see that their fee might go up for those services because it's clearly tied to the annual revenue of the firm. So really the first place where you can start to see how these variables affect the price, and more importantly, the client can see how those variables start to affect the price as well. We've got our start date and our financial year end, and I'll come back to that in a second when we get down to the fee. But after that, we get into the actual services themselves. So again, I've clicked them off so you don't have to watch me tick through and create a whole proposal. But if I uncheck this one and tick back into it, you'll see as you tick into these services, we're prompted with the different variables that we want to factor in for each service. So again, from a transparency point of view, the client can see exactly where each fee is coming from for each service. They know what each fee is based on, but it also makes it much more collaborative as well. So if you're running through this with a client and you are going through the bookkeeping services, as an example, you can ask them, how many invoices are we going to be raising and sending? How many transactions have you got going through your bank each month? They're giving you that information. They're almost helping you to build the fee, and you're sort of, I suppose, taking them on that journey to the fee rather than it looking like that finger in the air approach, or that you've just sort of come up with something or made something up off the top of your head. There's that real sort of tangibility from the client's point of view as to where their fee is coming from. And again, as these are changing over time, they can clearly see that if the number of transactions goes up, logically, the fee for bank reconciliation goes up, so my overall fee goes up. So just really nice and simple for the client to understand. With things like annual accounts, as an example here, you might want to include quality or grading of records. So in this case, we're doing the bookkeeping. Maybe that's going to be cheaper than if someone's rocking up with a shoebox full of paperwork and expecting us to deal with everything. But again, we can make sure that it's not just a one-size-fits-all fee for every service. We're really thinking about the actual work the work that's going into it, and making sure that we're charging for all of the work that we're doing. Another popular variation is business type or industry as well. And this can be this sort of really great way where you can start to remove yourself as the bottleneck in the business and empower the team to have these conversations as well. Because especially if you're dealing with, say a few key different industries, and, you've been doing it for 20, 30 years. So you know exactly what you would charge an online seller or a construction company or whatever it might be. You can build that into the system with these variables, build that knowledge and expertise into the system, so that anyone within your firm should then be able to just go and create a proposal for any client. So they can come through, tick the services, select the right variables. And the idea behind this is that your most junior member of staff should be able to produce a proposal really easily for your most complex client. And it's all about removing that bottleneck, empowering the team, to have those conversations and be able to carry those out. And it might not be new clients, it might just be quick fee reviews for existing clients, but they can still really easily handle it all. We've also got the option, so obviously the bookkeeping we had was priced, the bookkeeping services, sorry, that we had are priced in the different bands, but we also have the option to price by a specific number, in this case with payroll, a specific number of employees as well. So this is really handy to have real control over how you price, in this case, payroll, where you might want the first employee to be, say, £20 a month, the second to the 10th employees to be £10 a month each, and anything above that, you might charge at £5 a month each. But this ties into something that I won't go into too much detail on now, but that we call the 1-3-12 method, which is all about making sure that you're charging the correct amount for payroll every month. So when you carry out the payroll each month, making sure that the number of employees you've got in there is correct and you're charging the correct amount for it. Reviewing the bookkeeping numbers every 3 months. So looking at potentially the average of things like number of transactions and ensuring that on a quarterly basis, we're charging what we should be doing for bookkeeping. And then having a full service review every 12 months and having, a full proposal meeting to make sure we're doing everything we can for our clients every 12 months. But specifically with payroll, like say on a month-to-month basis, we want to make sure we're charging for what we're doing. And this is going to allow us to do that. Things like frequency, obviously really popular as well with things like payroll and management accounts. And then one other thing that we can see in here is if I untick annual budgeting as an example, on the left-hand side, we can select services, include it in the fee, and include it in the proposal and the engagement initially. Or on the right-hand side, we can include it on the roadmap. And what this will do is it won't include it in the client's fee, but it will include it in the proposal in a separate section, which we call the roadmap section, which will let the client know what that service is and how much it would cost if they were to go with it next time around. And there's a couple of reasons we find this this works really well. One of them I'll come on to in a second, but importantly, it shows the clients that you're really in this for, building that long-term relationship. You're thinking about the future of their firm. And from your perspective as well, it's, a chance to upsell that service when you get to that full service review meeting after 12 months. So if you might know, this client doesn't need this service at the moment, but I definitely want to make sure I'm talking about it in our next meeting. We can include it on the roadmap, and it's a really nice, easy way to kickstart that conversation down the line. We can also make sure we're including any software that we're providing to the client, anything, especially where we need to pass on the cost of that and make sure that we're passing it on to the client. We can do that here. And we'll also see in the proposal in just a second how this pulls into what we call the apps map, which is a nice graphical overview of the software we're going to be using, letting the clients know what the software actually is, what it does, but specifically for their business as well. So it's just going to be populated based on the software we're actually using with each client. And then at this point, we can hit get calculation and we can calculate the fee literally there and then. So you can calculate the fee immediately. And I know some people don't like the sound of that when I first talked to them about it, particularly if you're used to, having a meeting or a call with the client and then going away, pulling together a proposal, coming up with a fee and sending it to them after the fact. But there's a couple of reasons that we find this works really well. And I always encourage people to try it sort of face to face and to have this conversation sort of live with the client as well, because there's a couple of reasons that we find it works really well. The first being that if they are happy with everything and they're saying, listen, how do we get started? What's the next step? All sounds great. How do we get started? You're not saying to them, well, actually, give me a few days. I just need to go away, pull together a proposal and a letter of engagement, and I'll send those over to you. We're giving them everything they need. We're going to have the proposal and the letter of engagement ready. And there's even, if you're sat in the same room as a client, there's even an on-the-spot acceptance option as well to make sure that they can sign up and authorize everything and get going straight away. Now, we're not saying that just because you're using GoProposal, everyone's going to do that. It'd be very, very nice if we could guarantee that. But even if someone was to say at this point, this has come out at almost £1,500, it's a bit more than I was looking to spend. Is there anything that you can do on the fee? There's no point in us talking about price consistently, having our pricing built into the system. If we then get to this point and we offer a discount or we round it down or whatever it might be, because that's just throwing the whole consistent pricing out the window. But what GoProposal is going to help us to do at this point is we click into the eye icon here. It's going to give us a full breakdown of the fee in terms of where it's come from for each of the services that we've selected. And it's going to help us to sort of frame that objection in a slightly different way, where we can say, the fee is what it is for these services. I'm sure you can see that this is how much each of our services costs. I'm sure you appreciate we can't give any of these things away for free, but it's not to say we can't bring the fee down. Let's jump back in and see if there's anything that we can change, the scope of any service that we can change, or if there's anything we might be able to stick on the roadmap for the time being. So we could come down here and we might say, well, actually, we've got our software support service, and the level of support we went for with that one was responding to all your queries within a day. You might not need that. I think, you've been using some of the software that we're providing already for a while. So, we'll go for 5 days with that. It might be a case of changing something like management accounts to quarterly as an example. Let's put cash flow forecasting on the roadmap. Obviously, it might be a bit more of an in-depth conversation with your client than this. But what we can do is have that conversation, recalculate the fee straight away, and bring the fee down in a way that obviously helps the client by bringing the fee down, but it helps us as well because we're still charging for all of the work that we're actually doing. So the scope and the price, as we saw from the value exchange system before, they're remaining in line with each other, even though the fee has come down. And I know from speaking to a lot of our GoProposal members, it really helps them tackle those conversations and remain profitable with all of their clients from day one. Within here, we've also got what we call the alignment fee. So when I sort of went past the start date and the year end at the start, I said I'd come back to that. And this is where that comes into play for services, in this case, like annual accounts, which we always want to charge a full 12 months of work for certain services like annual accounts, potentially tax returns as well. So in this case, where we're already 7 months through the financial year, we basically got 7 months of fees for that service that we've missed out on. So the system is automatically going to calculate it for us, and it's going to give the client the option of paying that sort of a one-off catch-up payment, or spreading that out over the remainder of their financial year as well. So over the remaining 5 months. So again, all about transparency. We're not trying to sort of hide any fees and sneak this in, but we're also making sure we're not leaving any money on the table, and we're giving the client the flexibility over how they want to pay that as well. But once we get to this point, it's just a case of us, if we haven't already selected our client, like I have at the start, filling in our company details. Obviously, we do want to be carrying out our KYC and risk assessments, so we can choose the correct entity type here as well. We've then got our primary contact details, so our nominated individual, the key person that we're going to be speaking to. But we've also got the option of including additional people as well. So if we need people to actually authorize the engagement, authorize the work that we're doing, if we need them to sign the privacy notice, or if we need to fill in a KYC or risk assessment for them, we can add them in here and make sure that we're carrying out all of those compliance checks, or getting all of those things that we need ahead of actually starting the work for the client. We've also got our internal details. So you will see, if multiple people within your firm, within your business are using the system, we can all track our own proposals, our own clients, and our own engagements really easily. We've got our own internal details for the letter of engagement as well. And with this, you can add your own signatures. So if you select the principal that's going to be in charge, you can pull that signature through to the letter of engagement alongside the client signature. We can agree a follow-up date. I know that can always be something that people forget to do, making sure they've got everything they need to make a decision, and we're following up in a timescale that actually makes sense, that we're not bothering them or not giving them enough time to speak to the relevant people if needed. We can also include a future goal quote, which I think I really like this, and I think I was trying to encourage people to use it, because this is where you can sort of include a more tangible goal for the client, a more meaningful goal for the client, and alongside the roadmap, you can really show that you're in it for the long term. You're thinking about the long term of their business and that long-term relationship. And that could be, as an example, hey, I've put grow turnover to £500,000 a year and recruit a team of 10 staff. But it could even be, if it's someone who's running a sole trader, they're working 7 days a week because they're providing for their family, but they want to take their kids to football on a Sunday or something like that. It could be, I want to stop working Sundays because that's when I do all my own paperwork and bookkeeping at the moment, so I can take my kids to football. And this is a great thing that, again, when in that next meeting, you can refer back to it. How have you been getting on now? You've got your Sundays back. Just a real nice way to build that relationship and show that it's more than just, we do your accounts and we charge you this much. A really nice thing to tie back to and be continually working towards as well. We've then got the key dates, and again, I think this is definitely worth highlighting. This is going to be pulled into your letter of engagement. So you can set this up for certain services, like in this case, I've got annual accounts, VAT returns, and payroll. And specifically when you want to communicate deadlines to clients, this can be, I know this can be a massive pain point, having deadlines that clients need to provide you information by and chasing them right up until the end of that deadline. What this does is it pulls those dates into the letter of engagement automatically for you. And so when the client is signing off on that engagement letter, they're signing off on these deadlines and on these dates as well. So yes, you might still be chasing them right until the end of this deadline. But if they're to miss one of the filing deadlines, which again you're communicating to them here, if they're to miss one of those, and if they get fined or whatever happens, if they miss one of these deadlines, you're covering yourself. Again, you're minimizing the risk to yourself and making sure that they've got everything they're agreeing to these deadlines up front, so that you're not pulled into something that you basically don't want to be spending time and potentially money on if you get blamed for something down the line. So a really nice, simple way to communicate those deadlines and get formal agreement on them as well. Then once we get to this point, we've got both our proposal and letter of engagement good to go. So let's make sure these both load up. There we go. So based on the template we selected at the start for our proposal, we'll see that we can include things like branding and graphics in here. So we can have a half-page graphic on our front page. We can include things like testimonials as well. And as I said, maybe these are specific to each team. Obviously, the template will drive the testimonials that pull through. We've got full-page graphics. So that could be something like core values, as you see here. And then all of the content within here, including sort of the introduction and any of the text within here is obviously totally editable, template to template. We've got a full breakdown of the fees where we do have a choice over how we display these as well. So you'll see as an example, I've just chosen to show the app stack or the software as a subtotal rather than a full breakdown of all the software. They probably don't need to see exactly how much each one costs. We've got it split out into monthly and one-off cost with that description of the alignment fee in there again. The future goal quote, if we decide to use that, it'll pull through. And I think it's quite nice that it comes through straight after the fees. So they can see, okay, I'm paying this much, but this is what we're working towards. And this is the ultimate goal. We can let the client know what's going to happen next. And I think this is always, can quite often be overlooked by a lot of people. Brilliant, they've signed the engagement letter, but what's next? Do they need to know anything else? Do they need to provide anything else? Give them real clarity over that. Another full page graphic. So a meet the team page as an example. I'm always bitter that I didn't make our example one, but maybe next time. We've got the apps map as well. So again, dependent on the software that we've selected for each client, it'll populate the apps map and let them know what that software actually is and what it does, specifically in relation to them and their business. And then we've got a full breakdown of all the services that we've selected. And I think this is really important for a couple of reasons. Firstly, we've got a description of each service, really communicating the value of what we're doing here. We're not just saying we do your bookkeeping and we charge you this much. It's we're doing your bookkeeping, but that involves raising and sending invoices where we'll get to grips with your invoicing procedure. And it's really going into a bit of detail and communicating everything we're going to be doing there. But importantly, it's got the scope of the work in there as well. So in the table of fees above, they can see what they're paying for each service. And in here, they can see what they're getting for that as well. So even though you've walked them through it when you're creating the proposal, they can see, okay, I'm paying that much for this number of invoices in this case. If that goes up in the future, they can really easily see why the fee's going up as well. We then also got our roadmap, which is very similar, but we'll also see in here that we've got what that would cost if they were to go with it next time around. And then finally, we've got one last testimonial and a full page graphic. And then we've got our letter of engagement. And this is where OverSuite comes into play with the content that's being pulled through here. So we'll see that we've got our letter of engagement. And this is where OverSuite comes into play with the content that's being pulled through here. So we'll see that we've got our letter of engagement. And this is where OverSuite comes into play with the content that's being pulled through here. So that based on, again, the template on the sort of overall scope that we selected at the start, we've got our introduction and our scope pulling through. So that's our so introduction, obviously overall scope. So in this case, for a limited company where we're not doing an audit, as we come through, we'll also see that OverSuite will pull through things like our professional body legend, and we'll have all of our what's it called, the footer, sorry, formatted in the correct way, in line with what the professional body wants to see. We've got all of our content pulling through for the engagement letter specific to the entity that we're dealing with. We've got all of our internal details and the client details pulling through automatically for us as well. And we'll also see within here that key dates table again. So they're signing off on the engagement letter, they're agreeing to those key dates. We've then got our terms and conditions, our privacy notice, our agreement of terms will all be provided by OverSuite as well. And they will apply across all of our engagement letters. But then we've also got our schedule of services. And this is just going to be specific to each client that we're dealing with. So based on the services we've selected, it will populate the schedule of services. So we've got a really clearly defined scope of work, a really robust engagement letter. And so not just from a compliance side, that's really important as well, because it's going to help us manage that scope. So rather than just having a general engagement letter that doesn't really cover anything specific, and then falling into the trap of throwing other things in for free as the relationship goes on, if someone was to turn around and say, actually, Chris, I could do with a bit of annual budgeting as well. I know we put it on the roadmap, but can we start looking at that as well? We can say, absolutely, we can. I'm sure you appreciate it's not in the engagement letter currently, so let me really quickly just throw that in. So we're both covered and we both know our responsibilities, and I'll send that over to you. But obviously with that, when you're adding it in, it's going to add it to the fee as well and make sure that we're charging for that. So great from a compliance point of view, and great from a money-making point of view as well. Then if we come right down to the bottom, so we've got obviously all of our schedule of services there. As I mentioned, we've got our privacy notice, which multiple people might be signing off on from the client's end. And then if we come right down to the bottom, we've got our agreement of terms, our agreement statement. We've got the option to include our own signature, as I mentioned. And then when the client does sign, their signature will be applied, the preview watermark gets removed, and you both get sent the signed copy of the engagement letter straight away. We get right down to the bottom here. We've got a reminder to obviously carry out the relevant checks. And then we've got the option to either save it as a draft if we maybe want to save it as a draft as I did in this case, and then pull that up in the client meeting to have some of the stuff already in there. Or if we've just run through it with the client, we can send it to them. They'll have it immediately, and they can sign that either via the email or the proposal itself. Or if you are in the room with them, as I said, you can pull up an on-the-spot acceptance option, which will take them to this page, which is the same page that they'd be taken to when they're signing electronically. But they can apply their signature in a few different ways. They can even upload their own signature if they want to. They can confirm their acceptance, and you can have the signed letter of engagement emailed to both of you straight away. So sorry to move my Zoom things out the way so I can get into the right tabs. So once they have signed, you can access, like I said, you will be emailed the signed letter of engagement, but you can access all of your documents from within GoProposal as well. So we've got the option within here to track the email itself, so we can see whether that has obviously not been sent yet, whether it's been sent, whether it's been received, whether it's been opened, whether it's bounced as well, which can be really handy if maybe you've got the email address wrong. We can also see which signatures we're potentially waiting on. So if we've got multiple signatories, we can make sure we see where that's got to before we've stopped receiving signatures back. We can see if it's been won, whether it's still live, whether it's we might mark it as lost as well. And we can also access our documents in here too. And an important thing we can do from here as well when it comes to repricing clients or re-engaging clients on a yearly basis is we can duplicate the proposal, pull everything through so it's all there for us, change the scope of services, add and remove services, and really quickly recalibrate fees and resend proposals and letters of engagement from here as well. But another thing that we can do with OverSuite, if we jump into here, is come through to our documents tab, where you'll see you also have access to a host of OverSuite documents as well. So we can generate disengagement letters, professional clearance letters. Sorry, I won't read them all off because you can hopefully see them there on the screen. But within here, we can generate these. So with the disengagement letter as an example, we can set a date of disengagement, any outstanding fees that need paying. And we can choose which services we actually need to include on that disengagement letter as well. But yeah, we can generate all of these as a PDF. The system will generate them for us, download it, and we can send it out. And that's the same across all of them. You know, the professional clearance letter, I know can be a really nice, handy one to just generate really quickly as well. And before I move on to the AML, the risk assessments, the KYC assessments, and just sort of how they work, and a quick run through of that, just to show you, as I said back at the very start, how easy OverSuite is to set up. When you do come in to set it up, you basically launch our OverSuite wizard, where you fill in just some simple information about your firm, things like which professional body you're with, whether you carry out audits and things like that. Literally fill this in, and you can choose which scopes you want to include, assign your service schedules to your services to make sure that they're pulling through the relevant service schedules to the engagement letter. And that is literally it. It's really, really easy to set up. All the content is provided for you. And once you've done that, well, you see, we've also got our success steps here to make sure that you get everything done. But you can also download a PDF of the whole thing to compare it against what you've already got. You could literally download it and just use it outside of GoProposal, I suppose, if you wanted to. Obviously, it won't be kept up to date. But yeah, you can download all of that and review it and literally have that full library of engagement letters in 5-10 minutes. So yeah, really, really easy to set up. Just wanted to highlight that there. But then what we can do once we have sent a proposal, sent an engagement letter, we've obviously got our contacts that I talked about at the start of selecting the contact to produce the proposal. And when we come into GoProposal here, you'll see at the top, I've got our contacts tab, which is going to take us through to our contact hub. And this is where we can start to manage our KYC and risk assessments as well. So if I jump into the company here, the first thing that we can see is the proposals that are associated to this company. We can also see our related individuals down here as well. And we can track the fees and the proposals over time. So obviously I've just sent the first one to that client, so I can see that there. But over time, we can start to sort of track these fees as well and see how the fees are progressing over time. We've also got the AML tab up here, and we'll see we've got the KYC and risk assessments for both the individual and the business that we're dealing with. So I see some messages coming through in the chat as well. Yeah, we will have time for questions at the end. Sorry, I forgot to say that. So yeah, any questions, just whack them in either the chat or the Q&A. Apologies, forgot to mention that at the start. But as I said, with the KYC and risk assessments, the system is going to guide us through these. It's not just a random checkbox exercise. We're going to be guided through based on the entity that it's for, the type of assessment is that we're doing, and our answers to those questions as well. So when we sorry, the same tab open twice there. When we jump into the client assessment itself, so you'll see I've already done my know your client assessment for this client, but I've still got my risk assessment to do. I can jump into the risk assessment. It knows that it's for the company, so it's a business assessment, and it's going to ask us whether it's partnership, a sole trader, or a limited company. So this one is for a limited company. So with this, it's going to pull up the template for the limited company, and only the relevant questions for a limited company are going to be presented to me. And as we answer different questions as we go through, so the first one on client risk, is this a customer? Is the customer, a business that is cash intensive? If we answer that with yes, it's going to flag that as being enhanced risk. And it's also going to give us guidance in there as well. So it's not just going to say that's enhanced risk. It'll say, it'll offer advice around that, and maybe offer advice around the commentary and the mitigation that we can add in here as well. So as we click through, we'll see that's the same. Sorry, I'm trying to move my Zoom toolbar out of the way. We'll see that's the same across here. So if we tick certain ones, it's going to flag as enhanced risk, and again, give us a bit of guidance. And we just come through to the end of this one. We'll see that we get our overall summary of the assessment. There we go. Oops. Sorry, I should have done this beforehand. But yeah, as we come through, we get advised on the enhanced risk. Sorry. There we go. Again, guidance specific to each question as we go through. But sorry, I'll jump back in here to the one that I've actually completed here. There we go. Sorry, go into this one. So we'll see we get the summary of the risk assessment with the risk level assigned to each one. But one thing that we can also do when we get to that endpoint, if it's telling us that it's that the client is going to be an enhanced risk, is it will give us the option to, we don't have to stick with that. If we're happy with our sort of mitigation and our commentary, we can set it to normal risk. So yeah, the system will advise and it will flag those enhanced risk clients, but it's not going to force us to to go down that route if we don't want to. So yeah, it's going to, as I say, take us through a specific templated risk assessment or KYC assessment, dependent on the client that we're dealing with. It's going to just ask us the relevant questions and give us specific advice around those questions as well, dependent on our answers. And it's also got that conditional logic where, if you answer a question no, as an example, there might be 3 questions that then just aren't relevant. So it's not going to ask you those questions and expect you to, read through them, work out whether it's relevant or not. It's going to just handle it for you and just show you what you need to know. And then another thing that we can do back in the contact hub, if we come in here, is we can really easily see which of our clients have got risk and KYC assessments that need doing, which are up to date, and maybe if you're using GoProposal for the first time and you import all of your contacts, you're going to have some in there obviously where the status is unknown because you've not done it in GoProposal before. But we can really easily come in and, say I've done a bearing down engineering risk assessment literally yesterday, so I don't necessarily need to do it in GoProposal again today. After uploading all of my clients, I can say I've got an up-to-date risk assessment. I did it yesterday and it was normal risk. So I can add my status in, and using that date, as I was saying before, the system is going to handle this in an ongoing way as well. So when that is due to be done again in a year's time, the system will flag it as needing to be done. And we can make sure that we're keeping on top of all of those ongoing risk and KYC assessments as well, rather than just doing it at the start of the relationship and then leaving it for however long that might be. If there are new directors or new circumstances of the client, we need to be aware of that. And the system is going to actively help us do that moving forward. So I know that's a very whistle-stop tour of the system itself, but hopefully that was a nice overview of GoProposal, OverSuite, and the risk assessments and KYC assessments in GoProposal AML. So with GoProposal, you get a 30-day free trial, which covers all of GoProposal, OverSuite, and GoProposal AML. Within that, nothing is sort of behind a paywall. You can send proposals, fully test the system. If you've never used it before, fully test it out, send proposals to clients, download OverSuite, download your pricing matrix, literally do anything as part of that free trial. As I say, I myself or one of the team would be there to assist with the setup. But the first real key thing is setting up that pricing matrix, and it's just as easy as OverSuite. When you sign into a free trial, the system will ask you a few basic questions about your business and the services that you offer, and it will populate the system using our sort of onboarding and pricing algorithm. It'll populate the system with a whole host of services and variables similar to the ones that I've just run through, with a version 1 of your pricing as well. So it'll populate that for you immediately. You can run a test through it, make any little tweaks that you need to, but then again, as with the OverSuite PDF, you can download a PDF of that, take it away, use it outside of GoProposal if you want to. But yeah, hopefully you can see the benefits of using it within GoProposal alongside OverSuite and alongside GoProposal AML. But like I say, importantly, you can do all of that on the free trial, really get to grips with the system. And like I say, myself or one of the team can help you get up and running as well. And along with the 30-day free trial, we've also got an offer for the webinar today, which is 50% off all 3 across GoProposal, OverSuite, and GoProposal AML for your first 2 months following the free trial as well. So I'm hoping Levi's still on here because I closed down my Teams, and hopefully she's got the link to put that in the chat. But yeah, what we'll do is, there we go. That's Levi, not James. I think she's hiding on his account, but yeah, if you use the special link there, that'll give you the free trial plus then the discount automatically applied at the end of the free trial. We will be emailing out the recording, and there will be the link on there as well. So don't worry if you leave the call before you get a chance to click onto it. We'll be sending that out as well. But yeah, hopefully have time to click through to that and get signed up. And yeah, maybe something to do over the bank holiday weekend next weekend is get GoProposal set up and fully up and running. But yeah, that's hopefully the first step to using GoProposal, OverSuite, and GoProposal AML, ensuring that you're pricing consistently, improving client conversations and selling services more confidently. And then with OverSuite and GoProposal AML, on the compliance side of things, being able to minimize risk, make sure you're working to those highest standards of compliance, really robust engagement letters, and really real confidence in your AML process as well. But yeah, I know we've got a few questions and we've got 9 minutes left, so it's not too bad timing, if I do say so myself. So let me just jump in and make sure that I can see all of the chat. I'll start at the top as well. Jen, sorry I'm late. No worries. I don't think you missed too much 8 minutes in, Jen. So hopefully you saw the full run through. Does GoProposal have an Australian version? Yes, it does, Anna. I think that there was a little disclaimer on there about OverSuite and AML specifically, which unfortunately are UK only at the moment. But I think Australia is our third most popular territory, I believe. Might be wrong. No, I think it is still third. So yeah, we do have an Australian version. If you sign up, you'll see everything will be in Australian dollars and everything for you as well. So yeah, you'd be good to go there. And we even might be wrong, we still have an Australian Facebook community as well. So yeah, we've got quite a few members in Australia. So I'm sure someone will be able to help out in our Facebook community as well if you had any specific questions around that. Changing invoice amounts for payroll 1 month through changing invoice amounts for payroll, 1 month reviews for payroll would be so much easier if the number of employees suspects brought through onto the invoice. Month. So is that having the okay, so is that being pushed through to the invoice for the payroll numbers there, Penny? Yeah, that's a good point. Does that not get pushed through to the invoice via the integration? That's a good point. Yeah, with the, I know I said sort of sending a new proposal each month for the payroll. Just to clarify as well, I didn't mean sort of send a full proposal and engagement letter for that. Every time, obviously, the engagement letter would be the same as the scope, the responsibilities and everything, and the services are all the same. But I know the most popular option with that is sending a proposal that doesn't require any acceptance. So you can have a template set up that just is really simple, really stripped back, saying, as discussed in your initial meeting, payroll numbers have changed, so please see below your new fees. And you can have that set so they don't even actually need to accept it. So that would be my recommendation there. And I know that works quite well for a lot of people. How do I get the team page on the proposal template? Great question. So with the proposal templates and the meet the team page and the core values and stuff like that, the graphics and those pages are like full page graphics. So it's basically just an A4 graphic that you can add into the template. Really easy, just literally go in, hit add, and add the image in. They're all just A4 size. Even the half page graphic is A4 size. You just need to make sure you leave the bottom half blank. And then obviously they can be different across your templates as well. Can you customize wording in engagement letters? Yes, great question, Alice. So obviously OverSuite will provide all of the wording for you for all of your engagement letters. You can edit that though, and what it will do is it won't. So say you edit one line in your terms and conditions, you will take control of that paragraph, of that sort of section of the content. And if there is an update, it will still flag it for you and say, there's an update that you can review and compare with the change that you've made. But the rest of OverSuite, the rest of your terms and conditions, all the other paragraphs and all the other scopes and everything will still automatically update for you. So yeah, you can change things if you need to. You can remove paragraphs, add your own paragraphs, and OverSuite will still all update for you. It will just flag it as an update if there's a change to the thing that's been changed. Can disengagement letters trigger services in center? The disengagement letter won't trigger things in center via the integration. It is just it will just generate sort of the PDF. So the proposal will trigger the services in center, but the disengagement letter won't. But yeah, great question. Obviously the link is in there as well. Thanks, Levi. Kind of what are the integration capabilities? Obviously just sort of touched on a couple indirectly there. So yeah, with the integrations, should I say, we've got for payments and direct debits, you can integrate with Go Cardless. That can be integrated into the sign-in process itself, so that you can ensure that they're setting up their direct debit before actually approving the engagement to be approving for the work to start. Sorry. So I think that is one of our most popular integrations and one of the most popular settings. We have Xero and QuickBooks integrations for invoicing, which will trigger your invoices off the back of a client accepting a proposal. We've got Carbon, Center, Intuit Practice Management, and Accountancy Manager, which is as Penny was just asking there, with the Center integration, will trigger off. Well, it'll link up all your contacts, but it will also trigger off like services or workflows, whatever they're called in each of the systems. Dependent on the services in a proposal, it will kick off those services in the practice management software as well. So you'll link up across all the contacts and all of the services. Alice, what is the pricing structure for the three products? Hopefully Levi's still here. Levi, do you mind whacking a link to the pricing page in the chat as well? Just because I know we've got a couple of people from different territories here as well, so it'll just take them to the right page. And obviously we've got GoProposal, OverSuite, and AML now, but they're all based on brilliant. Yeah, so that'll be in the chat in a second, Alice. But it's basically all the GoProposal. It's based on users and number of proposals. OverSuite is based on numbers of letters of engagement, and AML is based on the number of assessments and users as well. So yeah, I'll ask Levi. Well, Levi, I'll post that in the chat in a second, rather than me just reeling it off. Penny, just for anyone not using GoProposal yet, don't hesitate. It's fantastic. Transformed our business and very exciting roadmap. Thanks, Penny. Appreciate that. I've signed up for a free trial, but there is no AML on there, Caroline. It should be if you go to settings and account, Caroline, you should be able to add it in there. Just double check, and yeah, you should definitely be able to get that added. But yeah, we can make sure we get that sorted. Catherine, is it a set price structure with a low price for limited number of proposals each month? Yeah, Catherine, we've got just been put in the chat there. So yeah, it's all based on number of proposals, number of users. So we do have our basic plan, which is for one user and 10, forgot how many proposals it was then, 10 proposals a month. Hopefully that's right. Which, yeah, it's all on the pricing page. But yeah, find everything on there. And Caroline, yeah, we'll double check we get that AML added to the trial for you. Yeah, I'll make sure I check that out for you in a second. Hopefully we'll get that sorted straight away. I think we've got a question in the Q&A as well. So Debbie, sorry, just seen that. So yeah, great question. So GoProposal looks fantastic. Is it for someone like me, sole trader, bookkeeper, or mainly for large firms of accountants with many staff? I deal with all aspects of bookkeeping, VAT returns, tax returns, and payroll. Tend to just agree prices with clients at the time, or just charge a set fee per hour. Definitely going to sign up for the trial. Just yeah, great question, Debbie. We have clients of all sizes. We've got top 100 firms using us, and we've got so many sole trader bookkeepers, sole trader accountants as well. I think for you guys, time saved is extremely valuable, and being able to not just agree fees that you're comfortable with, that are consistent and profitable, not only being able to agree those upfront, but really easily reprice clients over time to make sure that you're remaining profitable with every single client, being able to do that really quickly and really painlessly, whilst also minimizing pushback from clients because they know exactly where the fees come from, I think is really important. Obviously, over time as well, if you were to look to potentially grow and take on more staff, it gives you that platform to obviously allow other people to have those conversations too. But I think a big thing that I always like to talk about, especially with the sort of hourly rate fees that I know a lot of people use, and a lot of people see success with them. But one thing I would say about that is that from a client's point of view, I think it's harder for them to see where it's come from. It's just sort of an hour. It doesn't really mean anything. It's just, I'm charging you X amount an hour, which loses that sort of transparency that you get from GoProposal. But another thing is that with an hourly rate, you sort of punish yourself for getting better at your job. Like if you get faster at doing something, it takes you less time, you're charging less for it. And I think that that doesn't make sense, because you're getting better at your job and doing more quicker, you shouldn't lose out because of that. So like charging by number of transactions as an example. If you're doing bank reconciliation, it's the same number of transactions, it's taking less time, but they're not paying for the time, they're paying for your expertise and the experience that got you to that point. So yeah, a couple of things there, but hopefully that makes sense. But yeah, definitely jump on the free trial, try it out. Definitely worth it, and yeah, hopefully and obviously be able to get 50% off for 2 months as well if you'd fancy going with it after that. But it sounds really cheesy. The idea with GoProposal is that it should pay for itself, whether it's in time saved, whether it's in those fee increases, those little fee increases and scope management over time that you wouldn't have done otherwise. Yeah, it sounds cheesy, but it should it should pay for itself. We've gone a couple of minutes over there with me waffling on with that last last answer, but I think that is all of the questions. Let me just double check that I've not missed any. Thanks, Billy. I think that's everything. So yeah, I'll let everyone go then. Thanks, guys.